I've built the parts that aren't VR, and you're going to be building the parts that are. So the cabinet, the targets, the audio, and the scoring, that's all done. And it's free. Links in the description. It's a free Patreon post. No sign up, no email, just download it. None of that is VR though. That is just going to be Unity stuff. What's missing are the parts that make it VR. XR Origin, that's you in the world, hands that can grab and throw, and a button you can press to start. 3 things. That's the whole video. Nice, quick, easy, and in the end, you'll have something you can hand off to someone and they'll know exactly what to do. So let's get set up quick and fast. That way we can hop into the fun stuff. So for your installs, I'm using Unity 6.3. You should be able to use whatever version of Unity you want with these assets, but if things don't work, consider using Unity 6.3 when following along with this tutorial. When you've chosen the version of Unity you want, just go to Add Modules and make sure you have the Android SDK support in there because that is what the Quest uses and likely you are using a Quest device. Now, after you have that module installed, come over to Projects. We're going to start a new project and we're going to start off with the VR template, and that will get things kickstarted. If you don't see it here, you might have to find it down here and make sure you download the template, and once you have it downloaded, you just need to name the project whatever you'd like. And we'll create the project and get cooking. Now, once the project opens up, we will be greeted with this Unity template that introduces you to virtual reality and the components that you need to make a VR game. You can see a quick start guide here, online documentation, discussions, bug reports, things like that, but we don't need that window because the point of this tutorial is we are going to build out that arcade cabinet that I showed at the beginning, and I will slowly be introducing you to the components that are important to make it work, and that way you get started with a early win in your VR dev journey. Let's start by importing that project. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is fix my windows. So this is not something you have to do. This is something I just do as a preference. I'm going to go to layouts, and this is my shrimp wizard layout. I just like how these panels look better and feel better with my flow and work. But now we can just move on to importing the assets. So with that out of the way, I have made the asset package a Unity package, and all you have to do is select it. You'll have all these little things you can import. Select import, and once it's all in there, we can open up this folder and open up the scene. And we will be greeted with this, a nice little arcade cabinet. It has some targets inside and is ready to be hooked up for a VR experience. So let's get cooking. Now, first and foremost, this is looking a little dark, and we can fix that in a few ways, but I'm just going to do a quick band-aid fix because I do want this to be a faster tutorial, and I'm going to come into quality settings, and I'm just going to set this to ultra. But I'm going to say this with a caveat. The Quest headset is technically a mobile device, and if you pick things like ultra settings, well, typically that is going to dump your frame rates depending on the game you're making. That's why things have to be low poly. Everything has to be pretty performant when you are deploying to a mobile headset. But for this tutorial, it's a small enough project and we're just streaming it through play mode. It's going to be okay. And as you can see, it's allowed us to have a few more spotlights, and now the cabinet's looking a ton better. Let's get things started. Now, first and foremost, we need to get the player into the game. And you might say, Shrimp, how do we do that? Well, with the XR Interaction Toolkit, they do provide us, as I said before, some tools to get us there. So if we come into samples, XR Interaction Toolkit, starter assets, prefabs, we have an XR Origin. And the XR Origin is going to be everything that the player needs to interact with a VR world or experience. So I'm going to position this guy right in front of the cabinet. All right, there we go. That's looking pretty good. And let's expand this out and go over it very quickly. So, as I said before, this is the XR Origin. This is what you embody when you're building out a VR game. It has a main camera, so you can see here in the game view. Now we can see into the world. We have a locomotion system that allows us to turn, move, teleport, climb, gravity, jump, all of the things that you would expect when you are playing a VR game. We also have different controllers, and if we expand that out, we have different interactors. And that is the core basis, and I'll touch on this more in a second, of how interacting with the world works using the XR Interaction Toolkit. You have interactors, so these are going to be things that are like your hands or your fingers, so you can poke and start a button, or the near-far interactor allows you to grab things that are close by or far away. And then you have interactables. So the interactable would be something like this ball. and we're going to implement that in one moment. But let me finish going over the XR origin. So we have other things like a teleport interactor, so we could teleport around the scene. It is a lot to take in, and if any of this is going too fast, I do have a hour-long tutorial that goes into each of these components in way more depth. But for this tutorial, we're briefly going over things just so you can get up and running and have a good win on your hands. Now, looking at all these components, let's talk about the game we're trying to design and what we want the player to be able to do. In a VR environment, designing all aspects of your game become very, very important. Anything that you leave open to the player might allow the player to break something that you didn't intend. So for this experience, we just want the player to be able to stand in front of this cabinet, press this button, and grab a ball and throw it at targets. That's it. So we want them to be able to grab things, poke things, and really not much else. So locomotion, we really don't want them to have any locomotion, so I'm going to turn that off. And then we're not too interested in teleporting, so I'm going to go ahead and expand out the right and left controller. Let's take the teleporters and turn them off. We don't mind the visuals. We might need to adjust the near far interactor in a bit, but we should have everything we need here. We can poke, we can grab things, and we have the player in the world. The first step is done. Now, if we have our headset plugged in and hit play mode, we can move around in the scene, we can look around, and I can't grab that ball yet because it's not an interactable yet. So let's work on that next. Now, before we jump in here and make this ball an interactable, I do have one thing that I need to fix. Sadly, the targets that I made, I forgot that I made it in Probuilder, and now it's missing some scripts from Probuilder. So we just need to go into Package Management, Package Manager, and then Unity Registry, and look up Probuilder and install that really quick, and that should get rid of our errors there. That's my bad. I should have probably just made the targets in Blender, but yeah, you know, sometimes you goof. Okay, and we can see here that Probuilder has populated over here. Error's gone. I have fixed the problem. Now let's move on to the interactable. So the way I'm going to explain this is, again, we have two main components. We have a interactor used to interact with the world, and then the object that we are interacting with. And with the XR Interaction Toolkit, since we are just trying to grab this, we can use something called an XR Grab Interactable. And let's see what it's added on here. So it already had a sphere collider. It added a rigid body. And then we have this component from the XR Interaction Toolkit, the XR Grab Interactable. And we have a bunch of different things that we can use to customize this thing so it works the way we want it to. It's a bit overwhelming, but that is how you get into this. You just have to slowly get used to all these different components. And the only way you can get used to them is if you're actually using them and playing around with all these little variables. Now, for this game, a few things I want to point out that are important to make sure this is working. You can see here we have colliders. This is what it's going to use to determine if we are colliding with the object or close enough so we can actually interact with it. And if we don't populate this ourselves, it's just going to grab this sphere collider or whatever collider is already on this game object. And then another thing I want to focus on is we have a few different movement types. So we have instantaneous. So what that means is it's going to move one-to-one with your controller. So when you pick it up, when you move your controller, it is also moving with it in a one-to-one fashion. And if we choose instantaneous also, if we try to move that object through another collider, it won't collide with it. There won't be any physics. It will go right through it. The other option we have is kinematic. So for kinematic, there is going to be a little bit of movement delay, and that's going to be influenced by your hand's physics. So as it is going through the world, it's not tracking one-to-one. It's keeping some of that velocity. But just like instantaneous, as we go through different objects, it is also going to go through it as if it did not have a collider. And finally, we have velocity tracking. And as you might expect, this is just like kinematic, where when you move the controller, it is going to be tracking the velocity. It's not moving one-to-one. So it's a little more physics-based. But the difference here is when you try to collide through an object, it actually will collide with it. It does not turn off the physics for that. And for this tutorial, I think we should use velocity tracking because essentially we are throwing the ball. We want it to track that velocity so it feels a little more natural. Now let's boot into the headset, pick up this ball, and see if it feels correct and see if we might need to make some adjustments. All right, so now that I'm in the scene, one thing I am going to point out is make sure you have your wrist straps on because we are throwing a ball and I don't want you throwing the controller across the screen. Now over here, I have the ball. I've removed locomotion so I can't quite reach it, but I do have that near far interactor. So if I press the grip button, I can pick it up and I can push it forward and backward with my thumbstick, which is not ideal. So I probably want to change that. But now I have the ball and let's see if I can throw it. I can throw it, but again, it is not exactly making it there. So we're gonna have to play with the mass and maybe play with the acceleration. Now, the first thing I want to address is when we are grabbing this ball from far away, we're able to push it forward and backwards and it stays at a distance. Instead, I'd rather it snap to the player's hand. So if we expand this out, we can expand out the left controller and right controller. And I'm gonna select both the one for my right controller and my left controller. That way, whatever hand we're using has the same setting. And if we look at the near far interactor, we can see the far attach mode. So let's see what it says here. Determines how the attachment point is adjusted on a far selector. This typically results in whether the interactable stays distant at a far hit point or moves to the near hand. So right now it's set to far, and that makes sense. We pick it up, it stays far away, but I'm gonna set it to near. Now when we grab this ball, whether it's nearby or far away, it's always just going to snap to the controller. Now the next thing I want to address is when we throw this ball, it feels a little weak. And there are a bunch of different variables we can change to adjust this, but I think the biggest one to make things a little more contained when we're experimenting with this is coming down to the XR Grab Interactable. Let's see here. So the biggest thing we're doing is throw on detach is checked to true. So yes, it is throwable, but right here, we have something called throw velocity scale. So scale factor applied to the object's inherited linear velocity of the interactor when released. So essentially, when we throw it, it's just scaling up the velocity. So that means if we throw it and it's not as hard as we would normally throw it because we hold a controller and we're not actually chucking this ball, then we can just bump this up a little bit. So let's try 2.5, or actually let's try 3, because I'm a big subscriber of Sid Meier, and he always says, when you're making adjustments on a variable, double it and then see. Now, the last thing I want to change on this ball is going to be on the rigid body. So here we have something called collision detection, and it determines how we detect whether or not a collision has occurred between this object and another object. Right now, it is set to discrete. And what discrete means is once per physics step, based on where the objects are in the scene at that instant, it is going to determine whether or not it is having a collision. Now, the problem with this is, although it is efficient and cheap to do this, if an object is moving fast enough, like say we throw it too fast, it'll actually go right through other objects without detecting it, depending on if it is moving too fast and in between physics steps, it has just jumped right through it. Another option we have is continuous. And so what continuous does is it will do a sweep on all collisions against static objects, so objects that aren't moving in the scene. But our targets can be knocked over, so they are technically going to be moving from time to time. So if we choose continuous dynamic, this does the same kind of sweep, but not just against static objects in the scene, but it also does it with other dynamic rigid bodies in the scene, kind of like our targets. You know, they will be hit and they will move. So continuous dynamic will be the best option here, but take this with a caveat, it is more expensive. So you can't just make all your moving objects in a scene continuous dynamic and say you're good. You always have to take performance into account. All right, so testing this out, let's see if I grab the ball. It attaches to my controller. And again, make sure you're wearing your wrist straps because we are throwing this and I have chucked my controller. And I'm gonna try throwing it. And it looks like it is throwing pretty well. And I'm able to knock down some targets. I think I might want a little more velocity, but not too bad. Maybe lower the mass. So the ball is still feeling a little heavy, and I'm gonna make some more minor adjustments here. Let's see here. So we have a mass of 1. Let's try making it 0.8 and then maybe crank this up to 3.5. All right. And I'm not going to bother hopping it into game mode again. I think those minor adjustments should get us to where we're going. But I just wanted to point out just like a few different things that you might want to consider adjusting when you are messing with a Grab Interactable that you want to be able to throw. There are a ton of other settings that we could play with and adjust, but that would make this video an hour long, and I'm not aiming for that for this one. We want to have a quick win on our hands. But make sure to hop in yourself, play with these settings, look and see what you can adjust, try out all that game feel. So the last thing we're going to do is get this game working, because right now we can throw the ball, we can hit the targets, but it's not incrementing the score, it's not counting down, we haven't started the game. So to do that, what we are going to do, we're going to implement a poke interactable. So you can see here, we already have this game object on the cabinet, and we have a poke interactable here, or I've named it that, but we're missing the components to make it a poke interactable. And the way this is going to work, again, on our controllers, we have a poke interactor on both our left and right controller. And with that, it has a little point on it where it is going to determine that is the poke point. And so we need to be able to detect when this little top button is being poked. So let's do it. So in order to make this a poke button, let's think about what we need to do. So first of all, we need a interactor and interactable, right? That's how the system works in the XR Interaction Toolkit. And as I've pointed out before, this already has a poke interactor on it, on both controllers. And the way this works is it's going to have a little poke point. Let's see here. It's this little dot right here. That's going to be like our fingertip. So when we poke down on the button, it's going to be using this little point right here for the calculation. So the other thing we need is an interactable. So I have this thing named interactable, but we don't actually have the components that we need to make this a poke interactable. And it works a little different. We can't just say, give us a poke interactable. Instead, what it has is a poke filter. But the poke filter is just a filter. It's not actually an interactable. So we have to put some kind of interactable in here as the base interactable. And what we're going to do is we're going to look up XR Simple Interactable. And this is just a simple thing that we can plug in here. And that way we have our interactable here, and then we have the poke filter. So let me explain what these two things are essentially doing. So essentially, the interactable, or the XR Simple Interactable, it's going to be saying, all right, well, I'm a simple interactable. I can respond to pushing, grabbing, ray pointing, but that's what the filter is for. The filter is just going to say, all right, I just want you to respond to pokes. So one thing we have to consider is, how do we detect this poke? Is it poking from the side, the top, left, right, bottom? And the way we're going to determine this is we are going to select our poke interactable. We can see the face of the button is pointing upwards in the Y direction. And so we are going to be poking that down in the negative Y direction. And if we come over here to poke direction, you can see here we have a negative Y. So there we go. Now it is set. Now, the whole point of us making a poke button is so we can start the game. So I'm going to come into Interactable Events, on select Entered, and then I am going to drag this knock down a shrimp over here, go to Game Manager, and there should be a Start Game. So whenever we select it, it is going to call the Start Game function inside of our Knock Down a Shrimp Game Manager. So let us boot on our headsets and see if this is working. Okay, so I am in the scene now, and if I poke down on this button, the music starts. I have a countdown that's counting down, and if I pick up a ball and throw it, the score is going up. So the game is activated. Now, my only gripe I might have is when I poke down on the button, it doesn't really interact or do anything. It just starts the game because, well, we have to move that through a script. But it's not a bad start to our little ball throwing game. So there you have it. We have a functioning throwing mini game here where we can knock down targets, we can start it up, we can pick up balls. We know more about interactors and interactables. If you want a deeper dive into how this cabinet actually works, how these targets reset, how I start up the game and track everything, I'm going to be doing additional video on my Patreon where we go over how this is all built out. And on top of that, a few more things in terms of polish, like getting this button to push down when we're pushing it, or having our Grab Interactable objects return to a start zone if they happen to fly off, which tends to happen a lot in VR. So if you want to check that video out, go check out my Patreon. But in the meantime, I hope you all found this very informative. Special shout out to my patrons as always, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!